In the barren wasteland of steroid trials, dwindling crowds, and the long road to recovery from a wrestling boom gone bust, WrestleMania 10 was somehow, almost inexplicably, excellent. How often does WWE stage an event with 2 genuine 5-star matches, let alone 1? After all of his previous stars had left, this was the first ever WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan at all, and with his preferred style of big, sweaty men now tainted due to an ongoing investigation into steroids, Vince was forced to double down on the lean, athletic, new generation. This means Bret and Owen Hart, this means Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. Even before the fan favorite Hitman reclaimed the WWF Championship at the end of the night, it was abundantly clear that WrestleMania 10 had overachieved. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about WrestleMania 10. Number 10, the gossip columnist. This rumor made the rounds for bloody years. So the story has it that the forehead with the more head, Lex Luger, was supposed to win the WWF Championship from Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10, before then losing it later in the night to Bret Hart. But plans changed when he publicly blabbed about it. Word got out, prompting Vince to go with Yoko versus Bret instead. Despite this rumor being around for over 20 years, it's not been confirmed by anyone. But here's the full version. A gossip columnist from the New York Daily News reportedly overheard Luger, Hart, Crush, Stan Lane, and Johnny Polo at a steakhouse in the city talking about what was going to happen on the Sunday pay-per-view and printed it on the day of the show. Then the show happened as it did, contrary to what was reported, prompting another article in the Daily News 2 days after the show claiming that WWF changed the finishes in reaction to their piece. Number 9, Bret versus Owen was done to keep Bret in the company. In the fall of 1993, Bret actually sent a letter of resignation to WWF head office, though he had no true intention of leaving. He wanted to renegotiate his deal, unhappy with being pushed back to the mid-card after his run as champion, and sent the legal notice to get McMahon's attention. He even told the boss he was considering taking a year off wrestling if WWF had nothing creatively satisfying for him. On October 20th, 1993, McMahon pitched a storyline feud for Bret and one of his brothers as a means of motivating Hart to stay. Vince and Pat Patterson initially suggested Bret's older brother Bruce, but the Hitman suggested Owen, who was mired in mid-card hell at that point. McMahon agreed, and the year-long storyline began at Survivor Series a month later. Number 8, Mabel was the first person born in the 70s to wrestle at Mania. Had to be someone, I guess. Why not be Mabel? I guess. Nelson Frazier made his in-ring WWF debut barely a year earlier in his early 20s, and he aroused McMahon's interest by being big, but not steroid big. Mabel is one of the first, if not the first, WrestleMania performers that was still school age when WrestleMania 1 took place, being 14 years old at the time. I can't imagine what a 14-year-old Mabel looks like. I'm guessing he was still a big lad. At WrestleMania 10, Mabel, at a spry 23 years old, was working a match for the WWF Tag Team Championship against the Quebecers, becoming the first Mania performer born in the 70s. Number 7, Lex Luger was told at SummerSlam he'd be getting the belt at Mania. It remains baffling all these years later that Lex Luger so merrily celebrated his count-out win over Yokozuna at SummerSlam when he altogether now did not win the belt. The pre-match stipulation stressed it was Luger's one and only shot at the gold, so America's most domed superstar looked like a right pickled prick beneath the balloons and streamers. WWF's plan was that Luger would simply win the Royal Rumble and go to Mania and win. Dave Meltzer, confused as to why SummerSlam ended without Luger winning the belt, personally inquired and was told the same thing by all the company. Luger's getting the belt at Mania because Vince wants to build the chase. And well, you know what they say about best laid plans. Number 6, injuries prevented a Lex Luger Mr. Perfect feud post-Mania. If you were a Lex Luger fan, and you know who you are, you probably loathed Mr. Perfect for his questionable officiating in Luger's failed bid for Yokozuna's title at the show. The post-Mania plans had Luger and Perfect going head-to-head across the country, but they weren't meant to be. Kurt Hennig suffered a broken foot in April 1994, as well as recurring back problems, and was replaced in the scheduled house show run against Luger with Crush. With Perfect set to be out for a while, on the April 25th episode of Raw, not only did WWF announce Crush as Perfect's replacement, and the announcers told the audience, rubbing salt into Hennig's wounds, that Perfect was skipping out because he was afraid of Luger, and commentator Randy Savage, fresh off of feuding with Crush, even added that Crush was tougher than Perfect. Wow. Yourselves. Number 5, Ludwig Borger missed WrestleMania with an injured ankle, then left the company. Ludwig Borger made his WWF debut in the summer of 1993 as an America-bashing powerhouse whose brute strength was comparable to that of patriotic Lex Luger's. At one point, Borger seemed destined for a main event scene after crushing Tatanka's long undefeated streak with one finger, but fate would intervene. Less than a week before the 1994 Royal Rumble, Borger suffered an ankle injury in a match with Rick Steiner at Madison Square Garden. It was believed he would be back in time for WrestleMania, and it was announced on TV that he would wrestle Earthquake at the show, but plans were nixed when Borger remained on the mend. And Adam Bomb was inserted into Borger's place in the final weeks before the event. After Bomb was put in Borger's spot, the Helsinki native quietly left the promotion, never to return. Basically, Poor Tatanka. Number 4, Randy Savage tore into Razor and Michaels for going long. People suffer for their art, but what about people who suffer for the art of others? No one will deny that Ramon and Michaels pieced together one of the greatest and most influential matches in the annals of wrestling history in their ladder match for the IC title, least of all Bob Holly, who was due to take part in a 10-man tag following that match. Holly, though offering high praise for the match, claims that Ramon and Michaels intentionally ignored the ref's cues to go home. As a result, the match went longer than planned and the 10-man was scrapped, costing Holly and others, including the 1-2-3 Kid, Jeff Jarrett and more, a piece of the WrestleMania spotlight. According to Holly, when Ramon and Michaels each made it through the curtain, Randy Savage angrily lit into both men for selfishly depriving others of their time and screamed every curse word imaginable at them. Number 3, Shawn Michaels didn't wrestle on TV for 4 months after Mania. When one's considering wrestlers that were elevated after losing a high-profile match, certainly Michaels immediately comes to mind. Also, me versus Rampage. I am the same as Shawn Michaels. Rather than capitalize on the amazing match with sustained in-ring face time after wowing the world, Michaels went in the other direction, suggesting that he take on a lighter schedule. He reasoned that if he didn't wrestle as often, the times he did wrestle would be more special. With that, Michaels went about managing his ally Diesel and hosting his own segment entitled The Heartbreak Hotel for the next several months on television. Michaels' next televised match wasn't until August 1st, 1994, a live episode of Raw where he would defeat Razor Ramon in a match spanning 20+ minutes. Number 2, fans chose the main event. Sorry, Lex. The infamous double finish of the 1994 Royal Rumble match served a very important purpose. When Luger and Hart went over the ropes simultaneously, it provided an opportunity for real-time market research. Howard Finkel announced each man as the Rumble winner, Luger first, then Hart. The crowd response was overwhelmingly in favor of Hart when it was his turn to be anointed winner, and it swung the office Hart's way. According to Bret, McMahon told him the next morning that he'd made the decision to go with him as champion at WrestleMania 10 due to the crowd response in Providence. Suddenly, those plans to hold off on Luger's likely run with the gold until Mania 10 were out the window, and Hart finally was given justice for WrestleMania 9. And then every Royal Rumble match that ever happened was warmly embraced by the fans. And number 1, the closing moments of Mania were Randy Savage's idea. The final moments of WrestleMania 10 are notable for featuring Bret Hart being hoisted onto the shoulders of Luger and Ramon and the likes of Savage, Roddy Piper, Gorilla Monsoon, Vince himself entering the ring to congratulate him. Hart would later say that it was a Macho Man's idea to have this type of coronation where Hart would be held up in reverence as the king of WWF's new generation. It makes sense given how Hart's apparent WrestleMania headliner moment was usurped a year earlier in some political game with McMahon and Hogan. With Hogan gone and the steroid-free WWF changed forever, it was crucial to showcase the real main man of the WWF. That was Bret Hart. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.
Monday, March 6th, live from Newcastle, and free on YouTube. Liam Slater challenges the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes for the WCPW Internet Championship. In association with Revolution Pro Wrestling, the villain Marty Scurll takes on David Starr. The Mexican sensation El Ligero and Gabriel Kidd versus the Kiwi buzzsaw Travis Banks and the Iron Man Joe Coffey. Delirious versus Silas Young in a Ring of Honor showcase match. Former General Manager Martin Kirby versus the Oddity BT Gunn. Match 6 in the Best of 7 series, Rampage Primate in a chain match. And Drew Galloway will defend his WCPW championship against the aerial assassin Will Ospreay. WCPW proudly presents Exit Wounds.